Alright, hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be looking at something that's very important kind of for all the people that like, Magic the Gathering and that like to play Magic the Gathering Arena. So, we have a new banned and restricted announcement for January 25th. Let's take a look at that. Boom. That's insane. It has some insane things going on. So, Wizards just did a whole redo on a lot of things that have affected a lot of people's, moods when it comes to Magic the Gathering, and standard has been stale for such a long time. It's crazy. So the biggest announcement here is basically Orange Epiphany is banned. It's done. Orange Epiphany is gone. It's this deck made so many decks success. I mean, this card made so many decks successful, and now it's gone, and it's just crazy. Also, something that I really expected: Divide by Zero is banned in Standard. Divide by Zero is banned in Standard. That's crazy. That is also good and bad, because it's good because now it's not annoying anymore, and it's bad because people are going to just start running counter spells, right? So immediately Grixis Dragons is a thing again. Not Grixis, I meant Izzet Dragons is a thing again, because in the past Izzet Dragons would run counter spells to support Goldspan Dragon. So since Goldspan Dragon still gets that one treasure when you target it, you can still cast like a Foretold, Saw It Coming, or a Test of Talents, or a Negate, or whatever it is, So this made playing counter spells viable again, while this itself is gone. This has more value than a counter spell. This gets you possibly anything from the sideboard that you might need. And I expected that to be banned. The other day I was thinking, I'm like, man, if this card would be banned, honestly, the upside to downside would be kind of like not the same, to be honest, because the upside of this card being banned is that now you can play mid-range decks comfortably. Now you can play, just a lot of things without losing too much on value. So this made me the happiest so far. But banning Divide by Zero makes me the happiest guy alive. This card is so annoying, and I hate it. I hate that it's so good with Lear. I hate that this card stops so many decks, stops so many strategies, and it's even good against aggro decks. So banning this is a huge plus. Also, Faceless Haven, the only hit for aggro decks. Literally, the only hit for aggro decks. This affects white decks, but it doesn't affect green decks that much, because green decks just have, Lair of the Hydra. Lair of the Hydra can have counters on it from Wolf Class or whatever it's called. So this just affects, in my opinion, this affects mono white. This was targeted at mono white mainly, because green is still going to play snow. They weren't playing snow just because of this. They play snow for their main removal card, which is Blizzard Brawl. Now that this is gone, it doesn't really matter. You just run 4 of Lair of the Hydra and you're on snow, or maybe 2 of Lair of the Hydra, so you can hit your Blizzard Brawl actually and go from there. But who knows, maybe they'll find a replacement for Blizzard Brawl and just run just 4 Lair of the Hydra. So this is good. This is, it's an annoying card. It's the best card of Kaldheim, probably like followed by a Goldspan Dragon, but it's good. It's a good hit to white. White has been hit twice already, but not in Standard. It was hit once in Alchemy when it comes to the Luminarch Aspirant, but this is a hit for white in Standard, so that's good, But green is still like, an issue when it comes to Standard, and it doesn't seem like they're doing anything about green when it comes to the ban list over here. So actually Divide by Zero just made green a little better, Faceless Haven, who cares? Green already, has so much potential, even more than white. Even though white was a better deck because of this card, and not only because of this card, but I think green is just the deck now. So, Orange Epiphany gone. No more Is It Turns. You can probably play, like, what, Alchemist's Gambit instead, but I mean, Alchemist's Gambit don't get you the creatures that get you to attack and win. This is why you don't see this card in Alchemy. Even without it being banned, the tax on this card alone made it kind of unplayable in Alchemy, because now you can't take a million turns. You have to cast it for 7 mana, and then you got 2 mana on the Galvanic Iteration, so it's just dead. Your strategy is dead in Alchemy. That's why, like, you see Hullbreaker Horror instead in Alchemy. So now that it's banned in Standard, like, for good, let them take a million turns with Alchemist's Gambit. It doesn't matter, because you're not making creatures, you're not attacking, you're not winning. What, you want to attack me a million times with the Hall of the Storm Giants? I can just kill it, probably, if that's the case. So it doesn't really matter. It seems like the strategy is gone, and we're very happy about these bans. We have to be happy about these bans. Divide by Zero is a big one, and it's the best thing that ever happened to Standard, to be honest. After Honor's Epiphany, of course. So that's good. For Legacy players, Ragavan, I guess, is banned now, I guess. Yeah, it was a very good card for Legacy players. I'm not a Legacy, content creator myself, and I don't play Legacy at all, so this is irrelevant to me. For Historic, Memory Lapse is banned from Suspended. Memory Lapse was the most annoying counter spell you can run across, because it's 2 mana counter spell. It's very, very annoying, but thankfully it's banned now. It was suspended, but now it's banned, so that's good. And then Teferi, Time Reveler has been rebalanced and unbanned. This card was an issue. It says each opponent can't cast spells only anytime they could cast a sorcery. So that meant, like, you can't, they just can't cast anything on your turn. This card was banned for a reason. So many decks got successful because of this card, and so many strategies were bettered because of this card. So this card getting banned, rebalanced and unbanned, that's pretty good. Now it's like a 4 mana card, and you'll see later on what I'm talking about. So in Standard, this is basically the highlight of why Wizards chose to do all of that, and it's all because of Kamigawa right here. Kamigawa is about to come out, and they faced an issue, and it was going to face an issue like how Innistrad did, if they didn't ban anything. So when Innistrad came out, basically nothing changed. The main decks were already made even before the rotation, which are mono white, mono green, and then the Is It Epiphany turns, right? So when the sets came out, nothing changed. Just Lair got introduced, Hullbreaker Horror got introduced, and that's about it. And for the white decks, Brutal Cathar and Adeline, and then for the green deck, probably just Ren and 7, which failed greatly later on because of Fading Hope. So nothing changed. The main decks were still the same. So they don't want the same to happen to Kamigawa here. They don't want to introduce a set and for it to die immediately because of Hullbreaker Horror, because of Lear, because of Is It Turns, because of green, because of white. Because people are just not going to play anything that is less powerful than these decks. So if Kamigawa was to come out and they'd have a bunch of cards, and these cards can't even beat the Is It Turns pile, then no one will play those cards. Then this is a failure of a set. You know what I mean? So that's exactly what happened with that almost kind of happened with Innistrad, because you only picked off just a small number of cards off of both sets, Midnight Hunt and Crimson Vow, and then you were left with just the other vast majority of cards not even being touched. No one wants to play them because they're just less powerful. They're not competitive anymore. Competitiveness was all about mono white, mono green, and Is It Turns. And yeah, so it's very good for them to do that. Basically, just stomp out all the main, or try to hit all the main meta decks before Kamigawa. That is so that when Kamigawa gets introduced and new cards get introduced, maybe new strategies get introduced, and maybe now there's more variety within the meta, and actually, you get to hopefully play cards within the set. So let's see about that. It says here, Epiphany is a card we highlighted in the October announcement as having potential for negative impact on the metagame diversity. See, while blue decks with powerful late game spells can sometimes do good work as natural predators of mid-range decks, a deck that chains together extra turns can be particularly difficult to stop and frustrating to play against when it represents too large a portion of the metagame. Yeah, I mean, everyone is playing, and they've been playing Epiphany turns. So, and the Fertile mechanic, which is a big part of why this card is successful, makes it even harder to interact with, as one of the traditional answers to big spells is hand disruption. So, you have Duress, you cast Duress, Epiphany isn't in hand. What do? If you don't run counter spells, if you don't run any sort of disruption, besides hand disruption, what do? Your opponent is still going to take that turn no matter what, if you don't kill him before, because they foretold it, they got it out of hand. So no matter what kind of disruption you have, they're on the safe side. Their Epiphany is foretold. They can just set up, build their mana, have some backup for the Epiphany, and then do their thing. Probably take so many turns, cast Galvanic Iteration, Epiphany, and then back it up with like a counter spell or a Divide by Zero. That was a nightmare. There's nothing you could do about that. And Fertile is what made Epiphany, in my opinion, a really good thing, along with the 1/1s, of course. So that's good. And they understand how it is. Like they know how frustrating it is. So, and I'm glad they did something about it finally. They tried. Obviously, the rework in Alchemy wasn't all that successful. Although, yeah, it did stop the card from being played as much. But at the same time, you just need it gone. You have Alchemy, but who cares? You have Standard as well. You've done something for Alchemy, now you have to do something for Standard. Because people still play Standard, and it's still something that people like to do. And it's just gone so stale. Anyway, it says here, well, this right here says, while not entirely dominant throughout the MTG Arena ladders, especially in Best of One, Orange Epiphany, decks have been particularly popular and successful at the highest level of competition and in tournament play. This is so false. You see this deck in Best of One all the time. How is it not dominant in Best of One? Being dominant is not mainly about just winning. Being dominant is just dominant here. Dominant here means how much it's being played. So Best of One is a format for aggro decks. It caters to aggro decks greatly, because people it's quick games, quick rank. You just don't want to spend that 30 minutes playing a control deck in Best of One. But if you get bored with aggro and stuff like that, you want to change it up, then you do it. But Best of One has had Orange Epiphany for so long now. I don't know what they're talking about here. Yeah, in tournament play and in competitions, it's scene play. But hello, like, it's scene play everywhere. This deck is a thing, and it has been a thing for so long now. There had to be something to be done about it. So I don't believe that it's not the deck in Best of One. It is one of the 3 decks in Best of One, and it's seen tons of play in Best of One. So anyway, even without access to Orange Epiphany, our data gives us concern that other blue decks are poised to reduce metagame diversity by shutting out certain types of strategies, in particular Divide by Zero. Yeah, Divide by Zero can go away. Seriously, Divide by Zero, you're out of here. Please go away and never come back. I hate the card with a burning passion, because it's an extender for a Fading Hope. Yes, it's a more extender for a Fading Hope for Lear. Also, it shuts down all the mid-range decks. Imagine you're playing a Storm the Festival deck. and you're playing against a Lear deck, basically, you're going to run into so many divide by zeros. It's not even fun. Is it, piles? So many divide by zeros. Nobody runs counter spells anymore because it's the better counter spell. It has so much value. You can either get teachings, you can either fix your mana with environmental sciences, you can get mascot exhibition. There's just so many things, and I think by divide by zero being gone, all that's left is probably eye twitch, as a good learn mechanic card. The rest, what, like pest summoning, like what else is good that sees play? Nothing besides eye twitch. I think eye twitch is the go-to card when it comes to the sideboard now, because divide by zero is out of here, and I can't be happier about that, honestly. It stops so many things. Yes, counter spells is an issue, but at the same time, people are not going to like to run counter spells as much because they're just not as valuable as divide by zero. Yes, before divide by zero was like a really big thing, we saw a lot of counter spells, but you can easily deal with counter spells. It's not even a problem, so yeah, I'm happy about divide by zero getting out of here. So anyway, the ability of divide by zero to cover up a variety of angles of attack, often using Lear, Disciple of the Drowns, or Hullbreaker Horror. So yeah, that's the thing about divide by zero, is that it's a counter spell that actually is kind of good against aggro. You can just tempo and tempo and tempo. Tempo is great. While counter spells are dead cards against aggro. Like real counter spells are dead cards against aggro. Yeah, you can cast one in turn 3, turn 4. But by then you have to worry about so much, like wiping the board, controlling the board. You won't even have some leftover mana to cast a counter spell. So counter spells are terrible, and I wouldn't play counter spells against aggro decks, honestly. They're just dead cards in my opinion. Like, it's just not very efficient for me. So divide by zero did the job that covered. That was a good card for aggro and a good card for control. It was a problematic card, honestly. So go away, please. Get out of here. Honestly, yeah, it can just go away. So yeah, no, okay, legacy, historic, yeah, memory lapse. Okay. Blue decks in historic continue to remain strong, so memory lapse is officially moving from the suspended list to banned in historic. Additionally, as we have rebalanced the fairy into a form we believe is safe for historic, and it will be removed from the banned list. Good, yeah, that's good. All right, so let's look at alchemy now. These have been big, Orange Epiphany gone, Faceless Haven gone, and Divide by Zero gone. That's good. Let's look at Alchemy. Alchemy rebalancing for January 27th, 2022. Since Alchemy's launch, we've been happy with the overall diversity in the format. With the overall deck diversity in the format. Okay, you got like what, 2-3 decks? How is that diverse? You play on the Alchemy ladder. You can't even play best of 3, by the way, because it's so dead. You play on the Alchemy ladder. You play what, dragons all the time? Probably run into like Esper Control, led by Divide by Zero, and you run into what, clerics? Not even as much anymore, to be honest. So what's the diversity that they're talking about? There aren't even enough cards in the format to make a diverse format. So yeah, Alchemy failed, obviously. Honestly, if they do something good with Alchemy, I'm on board. I'm all on board with Alchemy, but because I like the idea of it. I hate the economy, obviously, but I like the idea of Alchemy. So I'm all in when it comes to Alchemy. If they do something about that, they obviously introduce some cards that are just too broken. Honestly, the Whelp, broken. Townraiser Tyrant, broken. Inquisitor Captain, broken. You just can't. And these cards made specific decks playable, and then now you're facing the same standard. The same problem that you're facing in standard, which is just 3 decks being played over and over and over and over and over and over, which is so boring. So you got to do something about that. If you want a diverse format, you have to have balanced cards, and you have to, if you want a deck to be strong, then make all decks strong, and let's just battle it out. Anything else can just go away, to be honest. So yeah, the first buff, Yeah, so okay, the first buff is this card. This card is a venture into the dungeon card, and it says removed opponent's option to sacrifice a creature on the attack trigger. They just nerfed this card. They didn't even buff it, because this card said whenever whatever its name attacks, create a number of 2/2 black zombie creature tokens equal to the number of opponents you have. This card used to say create a 2/2 black zombie creature token unless your opponent sacrifices a creature. So if this can obviously force your opponent to remove something off of the board, or just, you know, have them pick maybe. So having that have your opponent sacrifice a creature gone is just terrible, you know. And now you just create a 2/2 black zombie creature token equal to the number of opponents. Probably not even decent in Brawl when you're playing against 3 opponents, but let alone, you know, playing it in Standard or Alchemy, and you know, you just the card is terrible. Yeah, I'll never play it. They want venture into the dungeon to be a real thing, but it's never going to be a real thing, because by the time you've completed a dungeon, it's like turn 3 or 4 and you're almost dead, you know. Turn 4 or 5 and you're almost dead. Your board isn't even all that, you know. So venture into the dungeon is just a super slow mechanic, and it takes multiple turns to acquire a good effect from it, and it's just not going to happen. Next, we have Assemble from Parts. Lowered overall cost, now requires 2 black mana. Ability costs 1 black from 3 black. So instant. It's a 1 mana instant, you know, speed spell that says target cards in your graveyard perpetually gains 1 black. Exile a card from your graveyard, shuffle it into your library. Create a token so it's a reanimator card that is still kind of 4 mana, right? Because you need to cast it for its mana, and then it says activate only as a sorcery. So it's an instant card that says activate only as a sorcery. The activate only as a sorcery is the perpetual effect here, you know, the 3 mana perpetual effect. So you cast this probably at the end of your opponent's turn, and then you untap and you know, pay 3 mana, 1 black, pretty specific. Exile a creature, exile this card from your graveyard, shuffle it into your library, and create a token that's a copy of it, except it's a 4/4 black zombie, in addition to its other types. So you cast this probably at the end of your opponent's turn. You untap, you exile it from your graveyard, and then you create a 4/4 zombie. I mean, for 3 mana, it's alright. I'm not sure it's gonna see play. It's kind of slow and like very scuffed, right? Very scuffed. Blood Rage Alpha, increased toughness. Terrible. This card is terrible, because how are you not going to have a card that has a fight effect? This card obviously has a good idea behind it, which is to have just, you know, which is to remove things, basically, fight spell for wolves, but it does not fight anything itself, right? Another target wolf or werewolf you control fights target creature you don't control. When you cast your next wolf or werewolf spell, it gains when this creature enters the battlefield, it fights up to 1 target creature you don't control. So sometimes you need a fight spell, sometimes you need removal. So I would love to cast this card for a 4/4, and then have it fight something, because it's a rare, so it has to have some good effects, or else it's not going to be played, and this is still not going to be played. Next, we have the Cloister Gargoyle. Yeah, lowered cost, reduced toughness. It's like they buff and they nerf at the same time. So it's a 2 mana 0/3 that probably won't even pop off until like what, turn 5, until you finish until you complete a dungeon. Terrible. This is still not going to see play. How are you going to play this on turn 2? Well, you can play where is it, where you can play this on turn 2. How? Why would you do that, you know? So that's never gonna happen, right? Terrible card. Terrible. What they're doing is just horrible. You know, you're like buffing or trying to buff, and at the same time you're, you know, nerfing the card as well. So it's a 0/0/3. Why? You still have that egg. The egg is a 0/4 with an insane, you know, effect. So why not leave this at 0/4 at least? You know, it's crazy. Next we have Dungeon Descent, and they just, you know, removed enters the battlefield tapped, costs 1 mana to activate. Okay, so yeah, sure, let me play this. Tap 1 mana and then tap my legendary creature, which is probably, you know, a ace card in my deck for my venture mechanic. And yeah, just to venture into the dungeon, I'm going to tap my legendary creature for 1 mana, and then that's it. And then opponent can probably like beat my face up next turn, you know. That's not going to happen. This card is not going to see play. Activate only as a sorcery. That's the problem. You cast this, you can only cast this on your turn. If this didn't say that, if this probably said like it full stop after venture into the dungeon here, you play this on your opponent's turn, you take the block, you tap your creature. Now you're good, you know, you venture into the dungeon, or you don't even need to take the block, whatever it is. As long as you can activate it on your opponent's turn, this would have been good, and I would have played it, but probably not, to be honest. This card sucks. Like, it's terrible. Activate only as a sorcery. So I tap my creatures, or my legendary creature. That's even another thing. Why a legendary creature? Like, why a legendary? It sucks. The card is terrible. This, you know, Eliwick Planeswalker. Ability cost, third Planeswalker ability is now 6 from 7. So the ultimate is now a -6 instead of a -7. It's a good card when it comes to the venture mechanic, definitely, but it's just, that's it. It's just good for venture mechanic. The card is so restricted, you know, because the +1 is just terrible, right? If it had venture into the dungeon plus something else, you know, when it comes to its +1, maybe it can see play in other decks, but it's never going to see play in anything besides venture. So this is definitely a buff for it, you know, the -6 from -7. But it's still irrelevant. It still will never see play, to be honest. Probably like rarely, you know. So Fate's Reversal. Return up to 1 target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Venture into the dungeon. Costs B from 1 black. So just like a 1 mana, venture into the dungeon, return 1 creature from your graveyard. It seems bad to me, to be honest. It's like, how often do you see cards like this being played, you know, where you can return something from your graveyard to your hand? Not often. So it's still pretty irrelevant. They're just trying to hit the venture mechanic here and make it better, but they're failing at that. Okay, find the path. This I think is a good one. Obviously, when it enters the battlefield, you can venture into the dungeon, but I think it's good because now it says add 2 mana of any color. I don't think venture is supposed to be a ramp deck. Venture can be, you know, venture is supposed to be an aggro deck, you know, it's supposed to beat your face quickly, supposed to like establish something, because it's not really grindy. Venture into the dungeon isn't really like a good grindy thing. So find the path here. Can probably pair up with something better, or maybe you can play venture, but instead of playing aggro, you can play something that's like kind of mid-range with like a big top end at the end. I would like this idea. I would if I was to play venture, I wouldn't play venture into the dungeon alone. I would play it with something else, probably like a big top end, something good to ramp up into. Probably like even like Storm the Festival venture mechanic, you know, with all venture cards that venture into the dungeon when they hit the battlefield. That'd be a good idea, and this card would make that happen greatly, honestly. But besides that, there's nothing for you to ramp up into and within the venture mechanic, unless you're deciding to play something else, like you're mixing it up, you know. It's not just pure venture into the dungeon mechanic deck, no. So next we have Puppet Razor. Increased toughness is 3/4 from 3/3. Okay, at the beginning of your end step, exile up to 1 target creature card from your graveyard. If you do seek a creature with mana value, +1, that card okay. So yeah, so you exile a card from you exile a creature card from your graveyard, then you seek a card with 1 mana value higher than the one you exiled. So you exile a 3 drop creature, you seek a 4 drop. You exile a 4 drop, you seek a 5 drop, and so on and so on. And it gains mana. It's pretty decent, but it's 4 mana, and this gets stopped easily by Divide by Zero. So that's why I never saw play. And also it's a mythic, you know? Like, how often do you want to make a deck that revolves around this? I can see it being played in like graveyard decks, reanimator decks, and stuff like that. I would play it myself. I don't see a problem as to why to not play it. But the main problem still is Divide by Zero. You know, you can just never, ever, ever cast anything with Divide by Zero there. You know, never. That's why Divide by Zero is a problem. And it's still in Alchemy, unfortunately. So, Perceptuous Drop, or whatever it's called. 2 mana. Now it's 2 mana instead of a 2 black, which was a 3 mana kill anything. But it's a -2 as long as you have not completed a dungeon, right? And then it's a -5 if you've completed the dungeon. So it's a terrible 2 mana spot removal card. First of all, it's an enchantment, so it's a sorcery. You have to play it on your turn. Second of all, you have to wait until you've completed a dungeon for it to be kind of good, which is -5, -5. So that's terrible, you know? You have Infernal Grasp, so never run this, never. Yes, it ventures into the dungeon when it enters the battlefield, but it's just terrible, you know? So this is still very, very bad. Triumphant Adventurer. Now, this card that's a major buff for this card. First of all, this card was the best card in Venture into the Dungeon mechanic, and it was a 1/1 that is unblockable because it gets first strike when it's their turn, when it's, you know, your opponent's turn, or when it's your turn and you're playing that card. So whenever you attack with this card, opponent can't block it because it hits first and it has Death Touch, so it's an instant kill to any creature that blocks it, right? And now the fact that, you know, you have to let it through all the time, you just take tiny chunks of damage, one, right? Now, if you let it through, you're gonna take 2, which kind of makes a difference, to be honest. Like, if you think about it, you have 20 life. So how often can you get hit from this card without, you know, until you remove it? It's pretty bad, to be honest. You can double block it, but it's still a massacre. You know, so this card was the best card in Venture into the Dungeon mechanic, and now it's gotten even better, you know? So that's pretty good. That's a major buff, I would say, honestly. From 2/1 to 1/1, it might seem irrelevant to some people, but to me it seems pretty good. So, card adjustments. Divide by Zero. Only learns if target spell if it targets a spell or permanent with mana value 4 or less. So now, in Alchemy, it says return target spell or permanent with mana value 1 or greater to its owner's hand. If its mana value 4 or less, learn. It's still pretty good. Honestly, if you think about it, it's still really good. It hits Key to the Archive, it hits Celestis, it hits another Divide by Zero, it hits an Iteration. What else? It hits Dragons. It hits every card in Cleric's deck, and you still get value off of it. So it's still like so good, you know? It's still very good. That's terrible. That's terrible. This is probably the only reason why I'm not going to play Alchemy, to be honest. I want this card gone. Like, I want it gone. Because people, when they see something that's like, this card can abuse you, honestly. And this, paired with Lear, it's crazy. Probably, let's see. You know, let's see what happens. But it's still very, very good. If it said maybe like, only learns if it targets a spell or permanent with mana value like 3 or less or 2 or less, honestly, then that's pretty good. Because if you are going to tempo a card back to my hand that's like 4 or 5 mana, or just 4 or 3 mana, then you don't get value off of it. You just wasted, a turn basically. But you don't get value off of it. You don't get to get teachings. You don't get to get environmental sciences. But the fact that it's 4 mana or less, like, think about the possibilities. A lot of dragons, and you still get value off of it. Basically, every card in Cleric's deck, you still get value off of it. What else? Every 4 or less mana in everything that's ever going to be created, you get value off of it. So it's pretty crazy, and it's still pretty good. Minor, just a minor nerf, but the card is still really good. The one I can't wait for is Fearsome Wealth. Now trigger. We are aiming to promote. No, hold on. We are aiming to promote higher mana value cards in Alchemy. Divide by Zero was stronger as it targeted more expensive cards, and this change will more evenly distribute its power. No. Just take it out, man. Seriously, I'm all for banning cards. Honestly, I'm the type of player that I would love to get cards banned. Like, next, seriously, we're done with this. We played this. We were bored with this. It's gone. Next, let's see the next cards. Now another card gets introduced and now it's overpowered. Ban it. Next. Who cares? I don't care. I'm not a paper player anyway, so I don't care. So yeah. You want to distribute power. You want to make higher mana value cards in Alchemy playable. But imagine this. Turn 6 and you're about to cast like a Professor Onyx. You get bounced with Divide by Zero. Yeah, they don't get to learn, sure. But at the same time, your entire turn 6 is gone. And usually that's the turn before Hullbreaker Horror. That's the turn before, stuff like that. So how are you doing that? That's insane. That's not gonna happen. This is still a card, and this will still see play. I promise you that. Now, we got Fearsome Wealth. Now triggers on upkeep from end step, gains haste. So the haste is a minor buff, but honestly, it's because they just destroyed this card, and I love it. Now they give an opportunity to players. They give an opportunity for players to play the game. Now you have a chance against dragons, because instead of at the end of your upkeep, at the end of your end keep, now it's at the beginning of your upkeep. Each dragon card in your hand perpetually gains. So the dragon player casts this card. Then at the end turn, they don't get the effect. Now you get your whole turn 2. You get your whole turn 2 to deal with this card. If you don't deal with it, then that's up to your deck. If you do, then they don't get that perpetual value from this deck, from this card. So this is so good. The haste is obviously relevant because 1 damage, it counts, right? It stacks up, but at the same time, like, they just destroyed this card. So giving it haste isn't even relevant, to be honest, because the card is gone. The card is destroyed, and this is so good. This is going to unlock a lot of possibilities in Alchemy. The fact that people are still going to try to make dragons good, but they just destroyed the main card here. That's crazy. The fact that you have to wait on the perpetual value until your upkeep is kind of like a heavy hit, to be honest, and I'm happy about that. I'm very, very happy about that. Next one is Hullbreaker Horror. Removed, this spell can't be countered. In my opinion, I think that's a big thing to remove. Very, very big thing. Because if you look at it, in Alchemy, there's a major card that you can run that is good against the Dragon's deck, which is Disdainful Stroke. So now you are going to see sideboards with 4 of Disdainful Strokes, because it's going to be a card that's not only good against dragons, but good against any control deck's top end, which is Hullbreaker Horror and Leer. Disdainful Stroke hits Leer. Disdainful Stroke hits Hullbreaker Horror. Disdainful Stroke hits dragons. So it's going to be insane. That card is going to be a 4 of in any sideboard, and I would definitely put 4 of it in my sideboard, because Hullbreaker Horror is easily dealt with now with a counterspell, a 2 mana counterspell, which is kind of crazy, to be honest. But at the same time, I think that's a fair balance. Yeah, like you're hitting, the thing that blessed the blue decks, but at the same time, like enough, right? It's getting way too abused. This and if this resolves, it's still like an insane card, right? But now you have to worry about counter spells when you play this card in alchemy, because hello, like it's going to be insane. So yeah, watch out for Disdainful Stroke. It's going to be a 4 of in so many decks, so many sideboards, I think, because it targets 2 decks. So instead of you sideboarding, for example, what's it called, Disdainful Stroke for dragons, and then you have to sideboard something else for the control deck. Now you can just easily sideboard 4 and just stop the entire control deck from happening. Stop Leer, stop Hullbreaker, and stop dragons. I like it. I think it's a fair balance when it comes to this card, but I still think that it's a little too overpowered, because it can easily resolve, and yeah, we'll just have to see about this one. So it says over here, removing this spell can't be countered, will make Hullbreaker Horror easier to interact with in both control mirrors and other blue decks. Since blue control decks also have access to Malevolent Hermit and Leer, we felt removing the third instance of can't be countered will make the mirror more fun. Okay, so you're going to make the blue on blue fun, but how about blue on anything else? How is that fun? Because when you cast this card against anything else, it's good game, and you're just aiming to cast this card on to make this card fun against blue, but you cast it against black, is good game. You cast it against white, is good game. Red, green, whatever, it's good game. And when you cast this card the right way, of course, and it doesn't get dealt with. So it's just their mindset, I feel like, is so irrelevant, so irrelevant. Like I don't know how they think about things, to be honest. I don't think they think of it as like thoroughly. I don't think they think about things thoroughly, but we'll see. This change will also make aggro control more viable, as cards like Disdainful Stroke can more reliably interact with threats in pure control decks. Okay, yeah, Disdainful Stroke is going to be a thing, for sure. Because people are going to try to make these work. They're going to try to make the dragons work. So 4 of Disdainful Stroke is coming, I feel like. So next one we have is Inquisitor Captain. It says, added if you cast it and to the enters the battlefield ability. So now when Inquisitor Captain enters the battlefield, if you cast it, so there's a big difference. If you cast it from your hand, it gets, its effect. This stops what's it called? That copy creature, right? The Glassbowl Mimic, yeah. And it stops Soul Herder from Historic. So this is pretty decent. This is pretty good, but the card is still pretty good. I don't need to Glassbowl Mimic the card. I don't need to blanket or do all these extra stuff with it. Just cast the card. You'll get good value out of it. The card is still good. This is irrelevant, to be honest. They just stopped like the Glassbowl Mimic deck. Okay, but who cares? This card is still a thing. So, and it's still pretty good, honestly. So yeah, this is it's a nerf. Yes, it's a nerf, but at the same time, like, who cares? It doesn't matter. But the next one is very, very, very painful. The next one is so painful. They just buried that card. The next one is Leer, Disciple of the Drowned. This was coming. Honestly, this was a long time coming. Like, this has been a thing for so long now. Leer and Hullbreaker Horror made control decks happen, if you don't want to play Epiphany in standard or in alchemy, you can't play Epiphany anymore because it's been buried. But now, once Epiphany was gone from alchemy, it was Hullbreaker Horror and Leer and Divide by Zero. Well, the main card was Divide by Zero. But now it says added during your turn to the flashback ability. So the card says spells can be countered, sure. As long as it's your turn, each instant and sorcery card in your graveyard has flashback, as long as it's your turn. So how do you protect Lear? You have Fading Hope in the graveyard. You have Divide by Zero in the graveyard, and then it's your opponent's turn, and your opponent is trying to kill Lear easily killing Lear. They can easily kill Lear during their turn because you can't cast anything from your graveyard during their turn. You can't even counter anything because of the first clause here that says spells can be countered. So Lear has been buried. This is insane. The way they dealt with Lear is just crazy. Like I can't play it anymore. This card can't be played in Alchemy anymore. Unfortunately, which affects Historic as well, you know, which is pretty crazy. The fact that, man, this was big. I liked Lear. I like Hullbreaker Horror. I don't like how they've been abused, like Divide by Zero and Alrund's Epiphany, and they obviously needed to be dealt with, you know. They killed this card, honestly. How are you going to play this? How? It says here, we are aiming to make Lear, Disciple of the Drowned, less effective when combined with Fading Hope and Divide by Zero. The two bounce spells are very effective at protecting Lear and controlling creatures. This change will help players remove Lear, favorably attack, and interact with opponents' graveyards on their turn. So yeah, you cast Lear. I mean, what's the value that you get out of it now? You get like what? Expressive Iteration on your turn. You get to kill something from your opponent's board on your turn. But what about when you pass? Usually people cast Lear and pass because they have removal spells, instant speed removal spells in their graveyard to remove something from your opponent or disrupt them. Cast even a Fading Hope from your graveyard onto your opponent's cards. Cast Divide by Zero onto your opponent's cards. Now the card is buried. You just cast Lear, you pass, and then nothing. It's just a 5 mana 3/4 basically. You can't even counter anything to protect it. So it's a terrible card now, honestly. It's a very terrible card now. Probably still would get ran, probably like one copy only, to be honest. People are still going to focus on Hullbreaker Horror, I feel like. But I hope that these nerfs, I hope that the nerf on Lear wasn't done for nothing. I hope that it improves the meta and honestly just diversifies like the decks. I hope so, because this was a big one, you know. So let's see. Next one is the Sanguine Brushstroke. It says remove life gain from sacrificing blood token trigger. So instead of saying like, whenever you sacrifice a blood token, each opponent you gain 1 life and each opponent loses 1 life. Now it just says you just don't gain life. You just don't gain life, and your opponent loses 1 life. It means nothing. It's still a 3 mana blood artist with paired well with like blood tokens. It still drains you, but they wanted you to not gain life so you can actually erase them or something. You know, like I don't know. It's pretty. Not really an impactful nerf over here, to be honest. So it's still a card. Next we have Townraiser Tyrant. Added non-basic as a targeting restriction. So now it says when Townraiser Tyrant enters the battlefield, target non-basic land you control loses all abilities except mana abilities, and it gains at the beginning of your upkeep, you know, deal 2 damage. So target non-basic land. What did you do here? Nothing. Because when you cast Townraiser Tyrant, you want to target a Dun of the Bugbear. You want to target a Hall of the Storm Giants. You want to target a Hive of the Eye Tyrant. How are you nerfing this in any way? This is still a card. Who in their right mind is going to see a dual land and then a basic plains and target the basic plains? Do I want to kill 1 of your mana, or do I want to kill 2 colors of your mana? Like, what am I gonna choose? Like, what's the right play here? Like, how is this even a nerf? You know, it's still a card. It's still going to be played, and it's still pretty good. So who cares? Next one is Card Legality. Teferi, Time Raveler, Balance Adjustments, now legal in Historic. So yeah, this card is now legal and historic for anyone that had the card. Now the cost is 4. Now has 5 starting loyalty from 4. Static ability becomes your opponent can't cast spells during your turn. So that's good. Now your opponent can't cast anything during your turn, like instant spells. So this card was made to basically battle control decks. You know, they can't do anything during your turn. So that's always very good. This is a shutdown to any control deck, right? That's good. And the plus is still pretty good because the plus says you can cast your sorcery spells as though they had flash. So your sorcery spells are now instants all of a sudden. And it's until your next turn, so you can do that during your opponent's. And then the -3 is still pretty good. You bounce something, you draw a card. This card is insane. You know, I love this card. That's pretty good. So we're aiming to move the Fairy Time Raveler away from a generically strong card to a specialized anti-control tool. Increasing the mana cost will make the Fairy less effective at controlling the board, and new static won't incidentally stop cards like Finale of Promise and Dreadhorde Arcanist. So yeah, 4 mana, pretty slow, since, you know, if you're playing against aggro, it's, you know, it can be really slow, and it won't be as effective against aggro, but this is a sideboard card, right? I'm not gonna play this card in my main deck, unless I'm playing a deck that revolves around the +1, so it doesn't really matter. Anyway, so these are some big updates for Alchemy. I think Lear was the card. Lear and Fearsome Whelp were the 2 cards that got the biggest hit, unfortunately. Well, fortunately for the Whelp, but unfortunately for Lear, in my opinion, because I'm not like an aggro player. So, and the rest are just pretty irrelevant. The rest will still never see play, and I'll be surprised if they did. It's pretty big, Lear and Whelp, and also something like, I'm unhappy about Lear, you know, but happy about the Whelp, and I'm also very happy about the Epiphany gone from standard, the Divide by Zero gone from standard, and the Faceless Haven is gone from standard. So that's pretty good, especially for me, because I like variety. I play a lot of things. I'm not going to play the same thing, right? So anything that battles my variety or what I like to play, I'm happy that it's gone. Divide by Zero battles my mid-range variety. Orange Epiphany is also like such a pain in you know what I mean, because it's always played, like it's so boring playing against it. And Faceless Haven is also very devastating when it comes to aggro lists. So, but I have to say, the one that I'm happy about the most is Divide by Zero, and this one I wished for. Like the other day I was thinking, and I was like, man, like, they have to ban this. Like, they have to, because when you play in like any tournament, you're basically playing 7 hours of Divide by Zero, Lear, Hullbreaker Horror, Orange Epiphany, White, and Green. That's all you're playing for 7 hours. That has to be boring. So I'm very happy that this is gone. I'm very happy that Epiphany is gone, and I'm pretty happy that Faceless Haven is gone. Although I do want them to hit green a little more. They have to hit green. They have to do something, you know. You did something about the Chariot and Alchemy, and now the Chariot is unplayable. Although it still sees kind of some sort of play here and there, but it's not the same anymore. I wish they do something more about green. Probably like the Troll, to be honest. Probably like the Troll. I would love to see the Troll getting hit, and because that's a hit only for green. You don't see the Troll in any other deck besides green. So probably how I would do it is just make the cost of the Troll getting, you know, so you know how you pay 1 to get the token after the Troll is equipped to the land? How about make it 2 to get the token? That's pretty good. That also like makes it hard for them to do that on your end step. Or okay, make it 1 to get the token, but then just say activate only as a sorcery, instead of them being able to do that on your end step. That's pretty devastating, right? So probably these changes for the Troll. Anything else, or probably just hit the Chariot again in standard. Anything else doesn't really matter, you know. White is nothing, you know. White is pretty good against White is the best deck on the play if he drew good. like, you know, turn 1 play, turn 2 Thalia, turn 3 Spellbinder, pretty devastating, right? Or turn 3 Adeline, and then by turn 4 or 5 you're almost dead, right? So I wouldn't do anything about white just yet, because I'm not annoyed playing against white, surprisingly, as I am annoyed playing against green or Epiphany. So it's pretty whatever. These are some major changes, and hopefully this makes Kamigawa like very, very good. And yeah, I just can't wait. I'm gonna be covering Kamigawa, and with that being said, if you guys find any value, I'm going to be covering any news. I'm gonna cover the new set, and new gameplay is coming soon. If you guys find any value, make sure you like and subscribe. I'm pretty much at 100 subscribers, and I can't be more happy. So I want to take the moment and say thank you so much for your support, and you guys have been great. You know, your interaction and everything. Hopefully, I become your go-to Magic the Gathering Arena content creator. And yeah, I have a lot of goals for the channel, and my next goal is probably like 1,000 subscribers. That's very, very far away, but you know, you can only just have a goal, right? So yeah, with that being said, thank you guys so much, and I'll see you next time with another video.